Hi there, welcome back. Here's 5 essential practice tools that I use every day when I practice. The main idea between all of them is that they're not my phone. My phone is constantly distracting me from what I'd like to be doing, and although it has really handy things like tuners and metronomes and practice apps, it's ultimately distracting because I end up checking my email or doing some other things. So I will show you 5 tools that I use that are very simple and more in the analog world, and are very affordable and easy to get your hands on. Let's start with first this handy kitchen timer, which keeps track of when I'm on the clock, so to speak. So I'll set it usually to about 30-minute intervals, and during that time I'm shutting everything out that's not my work. What this has taught me is when my attention starts to drift, that I have some options. I can deal with that boredom by mixing up the activity or the way I'm practicing, by picking a different thing to practice altogether. But ultimately the goal is to keep myself engaged. And if there's constantly like a ding or a ping or a notification going off, that's going to be this instant dopamine hit. It's always going to take me away from that. So that's why when I'm using this, I'm not using my phone, and it forces me to deal with the activity at hand, and sort of my only choice is to get deeper or to stop. So I think it's really handy for that, just keeping the mission in focus. Here is just a classic Seiko quartz metronome. It has 2 different tones, high and low. It works great. It does exactly what it's supposed to do and nothing more. You don't get to choose accents or weird time signatures or anything like that. It's just a really basic tool. I practice with a metronome a lot and without a metronome. And ultimately I just prefer like a really simple design I prefer it a lot more to something that's gonna get me distracted and I have to learn how to use it and all that stuff. This is dead simple. The tone sounds really great. Check it out. Okay, this is a total relic from the early aughts, but it's a Zoom H2 recorder, which I've used for a long time. I've also used the iPhone voice notes app, but there are 2 problems with it. First of all, it's really hard to find stuff that you haven't labeled before, and there's so many like little 10 to 30 second clips that I'll just never find again. This stays relatively organized, and it makes you want to record like only when you really need to. And I think the sound of the voice memos app, the compression makes things sound a little better and sweeter and punchier than they actually do. So something like this, or like a microphone, like a room microphone, will give you a clearer sense of how you actually sound. And then obviously you still have to go back and listen to it. And ultimately I think that's just a really positive thing to do in your practice, is go back to listen to how you actually sound. Instead of the voice notes app, sometimes you record yourself and you think you'll go back and listen to it, but you don't really go back and listen to it. At least with this, you can just play it back immediately. It's got a little headphone out. I think it's great. Check it out. Okay, this is one of my favorites. It's a tuning fork that's lodged in this resonant box here. And I have a teacher named Pedro De Alcantara, who's an amazing musician and teacher. He wrote a series of books called Integrated Practice, and I believe it's in one of those books that he asks, do you want to have a digital or an analog experience? Which I think is a good question, because neither is better than the other, but a tuning fork, tuning to one will really teach you about how to tune. When you outsource it to a snark tuner or any sort of pedal tuner, it's kind of doing the job for you, which is obviously very handy in a pinch. But learning to tune and how each string on the guitar intonates, and how it relates to like a tone, a sine tone like this, is very cool and very humbling. I highly recommend it. Finally, we have my favorite, classic notebook. At the beginning of every practice session, I always write what I'm going to do, and then I reflect on it at the end so that when I pick up the next day, I can look back on my notes and figure out exactly where I need to start again and what I was thinking in my headspace in the previous day or previous weeks or month. A lot of these will go back several weeks, and I have all of mine from when I started practicing 15, 20 years ago that I can always look back on, which is a lot more reliable than a notes app that gets deleted, or kind of this digital storage space that it's really hard to find stuff in. I love having something tactile. I think it's a classic for a reason. Anyways, let me know what you thought of these 5 tools and what you use to practice, and if you've had successes or struggles with any other technologies that are out there. Always happy to geek out about practicing because we're all on a journey to perfect it. See you next time. Thanks for checking out.